Next panel, don't forget to go into the app and submit your questions. There's never a bad question. So submit that. This next panel is called She Wears the Pants. Woo! Which I cannot wait to get into after this is over. But we're going to bring on stage some of the women involved in this panel. And the first one coming to stage is Kathy Betty. Kathy Betty is a prominent Atlanta businesswoman. She has true entrepreneurial spirit, focusing on helping corporations and nonprofit organizations achieve their dreams. She was one of the first women to own a major sports team with the Atlanta Dream. She's going to sit on one of the couches. Next, we have Baby Mac. Baby Mac is a former All-American basketball player who received a full scholarship and won 2 national championships while playing for Pat Summitt at University of Tennessee. During the last 2 years, Baby Mac has toured all over the United States and has performed on multiple stages in Southeast and nationwide. She is currently the DJ for ESPN's College Game Day football show, airing weekly from 9 a.m. to noon on ESPN. And she moves so quick, she's already sitting down. Next, we have Carrie Potts. Carrie is the Senior Director of Communications at ESPN, responsible for setting the communication strategy for all ESPN college initiatives, including recently launching the SEC Network and one of the most successful channel launches in cable history. And she swiftly comes around another way. And next we've got, coming back to the stage, Jamie Weston. She is the Senior Vice President of Marketing, Creative, and Branding for the National Football League. She is a driving force on fostering a greater connection around around NFL fan segments and leads the advertising and brand initiatives. Weston heads fan strategy and oversees the league's brand management and creative strategy, including serving as managing director for the award-winning NFL creative department. And we have our lovely moderator for this panel. She wears the pants. We have Kiri, and Kiri Phelps is an award-winning correspondent for CNN investigative and documentary units based at the network's world headquarters right here in Atlanta.
Thank you. Is everybody having a good time so far? I think this is going to be the best panel yet. What do you think? All these high-powered women. Who does not want to be one of these women sitting up here? I mean, look at these titles and what they do. Yes. So maybe we start there, ladies. I've gotten the chance to know all of you. Had a great time in the back. There's a lot of stuff we can't say. We're going to try to, maintain our composure here. And also, I probably should throw out, we may have some pretty candid conversations and things to say. So we just ask, if you don't mind, when it comes to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all those fabulous things, that if we may say something that we kind of preface by, okay, we really want to tell you this, but it's a private thought, if you don't mind, not putting it out into the internet sphere, that would be fabulous. Then we can be way more blunt and way more exciting. Right, ladies? Yes, okay. How about we start with just, everybody sees what you do and your positions. Maybe the most exciting thing about your job. What drives you every day? Why do you like to get up in the morning and do what you do? Baby, you want to start?
You could go on for days. I'm a music artist, a DJ, and a TV personality, but what drives me is definitely the passion of what I do. I love music, all types of music, whether it be from hip-hop to country to rock. But I believe just being at peace with yourself when you wake up will better determine on your day. And if you do not like what you're doing, if you do not love what you're doing, then don't do it. Pick something else. And I'm just very blessed to know that I love what I do, and I'm very blessed to have the career that I do.
Awesome. Kathy?
Well, my passion is simple. I truly believe if we're going to change this world and solve the problems, that we need more women leading beside men, carrying us through it. So my whole career, as you go through it, I am a huge believer in women and the power within us. And I will say I was the first manager of a 7,000 company firm. I was one of the first female partners at Ernst & Young. I bought a professional sports team and was the first female owner in the Southeast. And do you know what my biggest asset is? Being a woman.
Woo! There you go. Jamie.
I don't know how to follow that one up. That was pretty damn good. For me, I mentioned this during my breakout, working for a brand that really means so much to so many, and that, again, in the good times and bad, but how you can speak to passionate fans. I wouldn't want to work for another brand other than the NFL.
Carrie.
I see your NFL and I raise you in ESPN. You get to pick your sports organ. No, I love college because, and what I do, it's PR, right? So a lot of it's crisis management. Every day I wake up, I have absolutely no idea, like what's going to be the thing that I hear about, who's upset about what. I'm continually surprised at some of the things I think people are going to be up in arms about. Nothing. And then, I'm spending 2 days because someone's upset, like Lou Holtz picked up a Notre Dame helmet over someone else's helmet. 2 days of managing that issue. But what I would say is just the fact that I wake up, I never know, and I constantly feel like I'm on my toes. For someone like me, that's what I want. I want to be challenged all the time. I don't want to be in a job where it's rote. That works for some people. That person is not sitting in this seat.
How's that? And she's not wearing pants. She's wearing a dress. All right, let's just make that.
That was an oversight.
On that note, though, okay, about all of us, we all are rolling pretty high in male-dominant fields. So here's where I would ask you ladies to be really blunt and take a risk here and go out and tell everybody in this room one of the biggest challenges you have faced being in a male-dominated environment. And I'll let you guys decide who wants to go first, and I'll take it from there.
Let me tell you the battle. And having been a tomboy, I grew up around boys all the time, and so I think that was always an asset, and I probably developed socially kind of exhibiting more of the things that they probably want to see in the workplace because, they kind of tend to still run the show in terms of percentages. I find that I'm constantly telling my peers and my executives what the female experience is like. It's different. There's an extra layer that is just there. And I mean, I've had great male bosses, but the extent that I have had, inappropriate emails sent to me or people that we're doing business with, saying things or propositioning, there's an extra layer that's just exhausting. Like, I try to say that, and I'm being honest with you, it's part of the job and it's part of where I've been, but there is a part to it that they don't experience, and I'm always making sure they're aware of it. It's not that I'm walking in waving the card, but I'm saying, hey, while this was going on, I was dealing with this. Did you know that? Oh, I had no idea. And it's to constantly make them aware, so they have a little more understanding of why I might feel more burned out, sometimes, or why certain things might be a little harder for me. And I think that's an honest conversation. I'm lucky I have men that I work with that listen to me and let me do that.
So you're saying if you feel offended, disrespected, harassed, any of those feelings, right, that we hate to feel, I think anybody does, especially as women and at work, you're saying just be transparent.
I do, and I'll say things like, don't put me in that space. Like if I hear someone say something like, well, that might be abrasive. I'm like, do you say that to guys? Because I don't think you do. I'll literally point it out. I'll say, I'm not thinking you're saying that. You're not saying emotional. You're not using that word. And challenge them. And I think we all fall into these phrases that we use to describe certain actions and certain behaviors. And what are we seeing now? Emotional intelligence is far more effective in the workplace. And guess who has more of it?
Women.
Right.
Yeah. Jamie, I know you want to weigh in on this because we were talking about this.
Yeah, I would say though, at the NFL, we're very pretty buttoned up and risk averse. That I don't think you'd see certain things that go on in other organizations. There is one area that Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook used the term manterruption. And I think that's a real thing. And I'm not just saying at the NFL. I've seen it just working with other companies, and where you're sitting around a table and you start to make your point and you get interrupted by a man who is a more forceful voice, more passionate opinion that just comes and swings in. So at the NFL, we started this little underground thing called Women Amplification. And so now what a few of us start doing when we're around a conference room is if a female says, I have a thought about what if we did this with the draft. Typically that could get glossed over with a interruption. It's another female's job. It's kind of unsaid, but it happens. And this is all in the social earmuffs, please. Don't send this out into the airways. But another female will join in on that idea and simply say, that's a great idea. Let's think about that for a minute. So it's not in an intentional way. If it's a good idea, helping amplify it before it gets glossed over.
You know, that's a great point, Kathy. Women lifting up other women. And I know you have some thoughts on this too, Jamie, and Carrie as well. I want everyone to pipe in on this, and that is how important it is to have each other's back, right? Because, you know, there is nothing more awful than feeling like you've been backstabbed, thrown under the bus by another female that really should be your partner in amplifying a great idea and lifting you up.
Yeah, and if you think about women, and the reason playing sports is so important for young women is that men have been brought up going in, being fierce competitors on the court, and going off and having a beer. What do women do when they're fierce competitors? They walk out mad. And so that is what women face, is that we have to stick together and support each other. But I will tell you, it's about 50-50 out there, because it is women view women differently than women view men. And when I bought the dream, here is one example of how people view you. When I bought the dream, all of a sudden I was in the newspaper all the time. Well, every time my name appeared, it was Kathy Betty, at that time 54 or 55 years old. And it went on and on. And one day I picked up an article and it was about Arthur Blank. And I thought, well, they never mentioned, does anybody here know how old Arthur Blank is? So they never mentioned the, the other owners, John Sherholtz of the Braves. They don't mention their age. So men and women are different. People perceive men and women different. And what women have to understand is our differences are wonderful. It's what makes us who we are, and we need to embrace and support each other, especially when men don't understand it.
Baby.
I agree, totally. Huge example of that. Like you said, we have to have each other's back, and I believe the only reason I'm at this conference, yeah, I have the accolades and whatever, but Miss Carrie, I met her over at ESPN, and she put my name out here, so I'm here talking with you today. And the back with that, having each other's back. You have a man, whatever. You could be sitting by him, and you can call his best friend up and be like, hey, is Tyrone over there? He don't even know, but he gonna say yes, because he knows the man's lying. Women don't do that. Not saying we need to lie, but we need to support each other. All this jealousy, we gotta throw this out the window, all right? If a woman wants to be president, let her be president.
I mean, is it obvious why I brought her into the fold?
See, we all want to know who Tyrone is.
Right.
You better call Tyrone. I don't know why that popped in my head, but okay.
So wait, let me. So here's the thing. All right. The way I kind of figure it, and there's two things. One is that I read this recently, and actually, it blew me away. It was saying that there's very little difference in the male and female brain, What is different? We are made men and women by the drip, drip, drip of our gendered environment. Okay, all the messaging. From the fact that we are 17% represented in television shows and movies, that we don't even exist in crowd scenes. Did you know that? Like a generic crowd scene in a movie, women comprise like 10%. Gina Davis has done amazing research. You should check out her organization on this. Like the ways that we just get the message that we're either nags, sex pots, right? Or we're conniving in commercials, in movies, and in roles. All these things, right? And here's the thing I can't get my head around, is men have run the world, pretty much. How are they doing? How bad could it be if we were running it? That's what I don't understand. You know, why don't we believe we can be president? Why don't we believe we can run businesses? Why don't people believe we can? How much worse could we do? There you go. That is it.
You know, maybe this is a perfect time to talk about our sexuality, our sexiness, our appearance, okay? Let's, you know, and I could go back to the book of Esther in the Bible, you know, for anybody here that knows their Bible. There we go, I got a few claps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I'll go all day with you.
Esther was a powerful woman. She got what she wanted. You know, she became queen. She stuck up for her people, and she had no problem using her sexiness, okay? So the question is, where do you find that balance? Because our beauty, the way we handle ourselves, how we dress, how we look, it does play a part in who we are. And I remember my very first job in Lubbock, Texas, coming out on a SWAT scene, and you know, it's all men, right? It's the SWAT team, it's the police officers, and I was one of the only female journalists out there. And I remember being in heels and a skirt, and I remember nobody was giving me the time of day. Like the cops didn't even want to talk to me. They were talking to all the men because they had their sleeves rolled up and they were in there. And I remember saying to the cops, I need to get some information. Oh, you won't understand. Like he completely dismissed me. But what I learned from that was, okay, I did need to pay attention to what I was wearing in whatever environment I was in. And I did take that opportunity to do police training, to do military training, to play sports, which we'll talk about in a minute too, because all of you ladies play sports, and 3 of you in college, that you do, and many times have to put yourself into that man's world, so then when you come forward, you can talk that game. And you can say, no, I do know what you're talking about, A, B, and C. So that brings me back to, I would love all 4 of you, please, just to weigh in about appearance, sexuality, putting yourself in that mindset with which you work.
Well, at the NFL, the senior ranks, the higher you go up, the less women there are. But in employee-based, it's about 50-50, male to females. I think, and I don't know if I've done it the right way, but we were talking in the back, there's, I think, a difference between sexy and sex, right? I think Carrie looks pretty sexy today, and she could go out tonight if she wanted to in this outfit.
How many people think Carrie looks sexy?
Sorry. But I mean that, and that's like a real thing versus sex. And if that was the case, the way she'd be, her appearance would be much different. So I think there's a fine line. I think I've taken it, look how I'm dressed. I'm dressed like a guy, kind of. So.
Except for the pearls and the breasts.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, getting a little help doesn't hurt either. I don't know. I may take it to the extreme. Like I wear a suit. I have to wear a suit every day. So I'm.
So you purposely are more conservative at the NFL, would you say? And why?
It's a suit company. Men are required to wear suits. I fall in line with that. Yeah. And again, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's just.
But that's what makes you feel comfortable.
Try and make it an even playing field. Right? I don't want to be taken. Someone's pulling me here. I don't want to. We were talking in the back. I want the conversation to be up here and nowhere else. I think.
Amen.
And I just imagine Baby lets it rip on the turntables and people take her seriously, right?
Right, exactly. I know you're ready to burst right here. But definitely, ladies, in your mind, and I think we have to be aware what we're thinking and what our intentions are. I know growing up, I'm 27, but in college, I thought I was going to the WNBA. I had no idea that I wasn't. Did I sometimes wear provocative stuff? Not at all. I believe I never went that route, but my intentions in some meetings, I'm not gonna lie, okay, maybe, if I kind of flirt a little bit, wrong way to do it. Bad, never again. Sugar daddies, cut them out. They're not worth it.
Sugar daddy.
I'm just being honest here,
why
if
did
you
you
want
think
to be a woman, you don't need a sugar daddy. You don't need it. All right? That's my main thing. You can be a woman and you can be the sugar mama. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, make me go after that, okay. Well, I will say in my defense, normally this would have a blazer, but I'm amongst my women friends and I wanted to feel free today. And no, but I actually, so for me specifically, and yeah, I'm in no danger of overwhelming people with my huge rack. It's not happening. It's not even in play. But what I want to say is, it's actually never been part of it. I've never been told that I was good looking or pretty or anything. Like when I grew up, my hair is decent now, but it was crazy, out there. And I had a terrible underbite, and I was the tallest over everybody by a lot. It was reinforced to me that I was smart because I was a good student and that I was a really good athlete and people liked me. So I feel really lucky because I never built my identity about how I look. So I don't even think about it. It's not even in play with me. When I enter a room, I was telling the ladies here, I dress to be forgotten. I dress in something that I feel good in, right? That doesn't embarrass me, that doesn't make people notice me either way. But I make sure it's relevant. It shows that I actually know what's going on in the world. I'm not in a brown sack. But here's the thing. If right now, if we're still at the point where what you're wearing, okay, is a topic of conversation or in any way gives somebody the ability to knock you down and not pay attention to you, then why would you do it? Okay, you can sit there and think you're going to be some kind of vanguard and walk out there and say, oh, I'm going to change the rules. A halter top with sparkles is, you know what, that's me. I got to be me. Great, you're going to be unemployed probably.
I'm going to take it to Kathy now to weigh in on this, who, by the way, look how beautiful. Right? I mean, you talk about the epitome, of gorgeous right here, all right? So, Kathy, your advice, because, you look amazing, and you also have had tremendous, tremendous success. So how have you found the balance, and what would be your advice with regard to appearance and how you work, your womanness?
Well, you always fit in, but men do the darndest things. So if any woman thinks when they meet a man or they're addressing a man and they have a low-cut dress or a high skirt, that they're not thinking something other than about your head, you're crazy. All through 30 years of my career, when a good-looking woman walked by and I was in a conversation with a male, I just waited a few minutes as she got by, and then I would finish the conversation. And you know what? That's okay. They're men. I'm not going to change that. I'm just going to understand it. And as women, that's what we have to do. We have to understand how they perceive us and dress accordingly and fit in. Just like you say, your environment is what you want to do.
And I think what's interesting about what you just said was you'll get the attention, but it's fleeting, right? That only happens for a short period of time, and then that time goes away. What I work on is building sustainable relationships with men and women, and that's not fleeting, and that's solid, and that's where I try and focus on.
Sports. Carrie, you played volleyball at Syracuse. Jamie, you played volleyball at Georgia Tech. Whoop whoop. Yeah. Baby played basketball under Pat Summitt. I mean, you can't have a more fabulous coach than that. We both play golf, Kathy. I found for me, being a good golfer tremendously improved my relationship with men. I mean, it was incredible just even being able to tee off from the white tees. I can't do it now, but there was a time that law enforcement, military, any kind of businessman, right? as soon as they saw I could play golf, it was incredible how they treated me and how they brought me into the fold and how they talked to me. And I got a lot of fabulous sources because of that. Talk to these gals about the importance of, even if they don't play a sport, learning a sport like that, how it helps roll in a male-dominated industry.
I'm going to pick up on that because I can tell you I closed more business deals on a golf course, without a doubt.
There you go.
And it's about connecting with individuals, where it's a woman or a man. You've got to live in their world. You've got to listen to them. And sports is a universal language. And just like you, I grew up a tomboy. My dad didn't have a boy. So it was my sister and I. We had a basketball goal. We had a diamond cut out for baseball. And I can do a mean heads-up tackle. My dad was a football coach, and I'd go to practice with him. So sports was a big part of my life. And I think my ability to relate to men, and it doesn't have to be just about sports, but I think that is so critical for women. And these women that are so successful sitting beside me, do you know the Fortune 500 women C-suite executives, CEOs, CFOs, CEOs, 90% played team sports growing up. That's why you see success with people that play athletes.
Okay. Jamie, weigh in, please.
I think it gave me I was ignorant in a good way, or naive. So going here, playing volleyball, we'd play pickup basketball at I don't remember the name of the place. I just get out there and play with guys. Like, I've got next, right? And I was just so blissfully ignorant that I can jump in and play because I could hang with them. And so I think that carried in my career as more of a, what do you mean? Why not? Like, it's just the way it is. I'm jumping in. And I think when you go in with that attitude rather than asking and just doing, that's where people look at you differently. Like, yeah, she owns it. She can come into this conversation or whatever.
Carrie.
I mean, I think it's smart whether you're in athletics or not, because I'm sure there's women in this room who, may not have an athletic bone in their body. But I think it's really conceptually, it's about meeting men where they're at, in a way of being savvy in business. As long as it's something that you will benefit from, learning golf, obviously you're going to benefit from. I had a lot of friends when I actually worked in New York that were in advertising, and they had guys that were holding meetings at like Scores, the strip club. No, this is a real thing that happens. And they really struggled with, well, that's where the deals are going down. Well, I'm going to go. Well, I'm one of the boys. Kind of stuff like, there's a place to meet people and learn things, but then there's like compromising yourself and saying this is absolutely unacceptable. And I don't think men think about, especially they're not used to having women in the workplace, but some of these things, cigar bars, no thank you. I'm just not interested. Strip clubs, no. Golf's okay. So I think it's a good idea to try to meet them where they're at and kind of, find where that's happening. But also to another extent, you got to tell them that's not happening anymore. That's not acceptable. And I do struggle with the golf thing, by the way. I kind of struggle because, yeah, all men are mostly playing and then they're sitting there giving preference to other men. And I don't love that. Get off the golf course, and to an extent.
So what do you suggest?
I don't know, but I know when I hear that, I don't love it. I don't know that I've moved beyond an answer to that. But I tried to learn golf last year. I have so much arthritis from playing. No, I do. I can't tear like a Splenda packet in the morning. I can't play. So what does that mean? I miss out? I try to find something else maybe that works. That can't just be the end all. I know that it is for a lot. But maybe try to create something else. See that they do fantasy football draft, something like that. That's where a lot of them talk. That's where I kind of made my in at my company when I was handling NFL when I first joined ESPN.
I was going to say, if you don't play sports, fantasy football is a great connection point in the office, start an office league.
I think you have to be authentic. I don't think you can pull off being golf or talking sports if you don't know it. I think you had to find the connection. And I honestly believe this, and we should say this, is we as women have the power. We do not need to be in a man's world. We need to be a woman showing the way and standing beside men leading. So I don't want to think that there's one particular right answer, because there isn't. You have to be authentic, be yourself, and connect.
So let me ask you, Kathy, any of you, and specifically off that point, you know, Carrie, did you ever come up with an idea, anybody here, where it was like we say, okay, we think of getting in a man's world, okay, golf helps because so many men play golf. Is there something that any of you guys did that was very special to you, or kind of like, I mean, I'm sure all the guys didn't join you on a pedicure night to talk about a business deal, but do you know what I'm saying? Did you guys, do you have any ideas, or create something where they were brought into your world versus you having to go into their world? Any examples?
I can tell you, one of the biggest advantage in consulting was being a woman, because men would tell me things that they wouldn't tell other men. So if you talk about their children, if you talk about relationships, if you talk about emotions in the workforce, men love talking about that, and they would tell me everything. And as of that, I would see needs that I could go in and sell consulting based on that needs. So I think, again, it's back to what we're talking about. Understand who you're talking to, and it's a wonderful conversations. If you've ever heard two men talking or a group of men talking, they talk very different than a group of women. Mm-hmm. They really do. I mean, and so there's great opportunity to let a man in your world and talk to them about things you're passionate about, and you will learn a lot about the other individual sitting across from you.
One thing I shared in my other breakout was, so one of our big partners is P&G, and I showed the Always spot that ran in the Super Bowl, Like a Girl, right? For those who've seen it. So for us to start in a meeting by me saying, we're going to talk about feminine care products in the NFL. It was like, ooh. Men started like, what? And like, then our new CMO is a female and who's awesome. She's like, I'm already having hot flashes. Like, so like all of a sudden it was like a total female conversation, and men got very uncomfortable. But then you sit there and say, half of the NFL fan base, 48% of them are women. Mm-hmm. If you guys don't shift your thinking, we're gonna lose. If we don't change how we are presenting the brand, it's gonna pass by us. So the one thing we've done with our advertising, and I shared a little bit of it, is I've had men come up to me at the NFL and say, thanks a lot, you made me cry. And at first they say it jokingly, but they're like, that was really good, thoughtful stuff. And so I think if you tap into a truism, if you tap into something real and authentic, I do believe it can cut across men and women. But you said it, authenticity is key.
Yep. Go ahead, baby. And then I've got one more question for you. Oh my gosh, because we're already down to
ticking.
The last few minutes, but I've got one final question. So please add to this, baby.
Do not sell out. For me, my character is the most important thing to me. I'm not going to sell out. If they want to meet at a strip club, if you're comfortable with that, then go do that. I don't condone that at all. But if you want an alternative, I love to grill. Have them over at your place if you're comfortable with that. I remember one time I was like, come over and grill. I'll grill some steaks. And a guy made the compliment, shouldn't you be baking a pie? Then you don't need him over at your house. Do not sell out. So that's my only tid point for that.
Do you make pies?
No. No, I'll go buy one of those. But I can grill a mean steak for sure.
There you go. Final question, and I think that this has been something that probably the most important thing in my career, and that's mentorship. Unfortunately, besides my mom, who probably was, the best female role model I ever had, because she was so strong and resilient and handled us, without a man in her life for a very long time, that I had some fabulous mentors in the business. And they were all men, because there weren't a lot of women when I was breaking the glass ceiling, right? Could you, each of you, just give your advice about mentorship? Like, who was your main mentor? How did you find your mentor? What would you say to these gals about mentorship?
For me, first off, when someone is your mentor, that means You are taking a tour of their life. You do not need to make the same mistakes that your mentor made. And if you have a true mentor, they're going to tell you every mistake they made so you do not make that same mistake. My mentor, I've had so many, but my number one was my mother. She passed away. She did not lose the battle to breast cancer. In my eyes, she just got tired of winning and she was ready to go hang out with the Lord. That's my opinion on that, but she was an amazing, strong woman in her faith, and she told me everything, her mistakes, even I knew she was ashamed of it. So make sure your mentor explains to you all their mistakes so you don't make the same.
Well, just like you, my mentors were mostly men, starting with my father. And my greatest mentor was my husband. And he was CEO of Earthlink, a Georgia Tech graduate. And by the way, for your Georgia Tech, he was a chemical engineer. He worked 40 hours a week, and he graduated in 3.5 years. So that's pretty incredible.
That's a great mentor and a great husband.
But he really taught me so much. He was in sales and marketing. And so I learned together, we learned how we complemented each other, and we were truly business partners as well as soulmates.
Unlike 3.5 years graduating, it took me about 5.5. But
Jamie was having a little fun.
I've had male mentors myself. Here's the thing when you go into mentorship, don't be afraid, I said this earlier, to ask for real honest feedback on yourself. Don't be afraid to hear criticism, and don't be afraid, tell me where I can do better. Don't just go in for a glossy, feel-good moment. Get into work, roll up your sleeves and work on yourself.
I graduated in 3 with my undergrad, my master's in my 4th. Just putting that out there.
No pressure, no pressure.
Mentors. I'd say I have a good mix. I think something that I do see, though, and I'm going to mention this, this is a bucket load of honesty. I don't know if you're supposed to say this or not. A lot of women, we pick mentors that sometimes don't have the ear of management. Sometimes we pick mentors that are comfortable and we like certain things, but they don't have the influence. And if they don't have the influence and they haven't had the path to break through the glass ceiling or whatever, there's a limitation on it. And so to ask you if you're going to spend time with a mentor and it's someone that you pick, I think that's a good idea. And I'm not saying there's not value. I've had really great women. They've all actually kind of been vanguards. But it is something I do see, and it's almost like we're afraid to go beyond a certain level. But if you want to advance in your career, I believe you need to pattern after people who are continually advancing. And I think that's something we get lost in, and it's been written about. I mean, they say that about women. We tend to, and a lot of it is just because we're not at the upper. There's not a lot of us, in the CEO boardroom, so it's important. Do not disregard men. Men are our allies. Like, I may be making jokes up here, but I love men. They're great people. They're good. They're our partners in this world. No, I mean, it's not bashing. It's like we're being honest here, but I do think it's important that, you don't always look for someone who looks like you or, as a female. I think it's something that we kind of forget. And I wanted to share that.
Like whether male or female, it's somebody that you respect more than yourself. And
and they're respected in the company.
You want to achieve, you want to, yes.
And they're respected in the company. There are just some people who are like perpetual mentors, and they haven't moved out of that position in 10 or 15 years.
Right.
And honestly, I see that. And I've seen it, I was at the NCAA, I was here at, ESPN, and you just see it, and you're kind of, I say to the girl, ask for more than that. I say to the young person, go beyond that. You want more than that. You don't want to park it for 15 years. If that's not what you want, then why are you hanging, there's a ceiling on it, that's all.
Do not get comfortable.
Yes.
How's that for a parting
I like
thought?
that. That's
Don't
perfect.
ever get comfortable.
You might know what you're doing.
There you go. Yeah. I'm trying. Did everybody enjoy the conversation? Good. Thank you so much for your time. I think all of us could keep going and going and going, but this is our cue that we need to get off the stage.
No, it wasn't even like that. No. Oh.
Do you notice how she sauntered? You know, she kind of worked it. Yeah, speaking of looking great, how about
Amazing.
that dress? How about our
Thank you,
MC?
thank you,
There we go.
thank you.
All right.
Great panel,
Is
ladies. Great panel. She wears the pants. Give them all a round of applause. Love the honesty. Love it, love it, love it.